First gig you went to?
First gig would have been, I think it was Toyah Wilcox at the Apollo, but 81, 82. I think it was 81, just when she was becoming quite successful. And it was my first time at the Apollo, so I'm sure it was Toyah Wilcox.
The last gig you went to?
Last gig I went to was Echo and the Bunnymen at the Barrowland about 2 weeks ago. And that was the first time I'd ever seen them. I had a chance to go and see them back in 1983, and things happened that I couldn't go. So I missed them back then in their nascent days, but saw them a couple of weeks ago and it was pretty decent, yeah.
First gig you attended with a partner?
With a member of the opposite sex, it would have been Simply Red at the Barrowland, and I didn't want to go to it. And I'm glad I did, actually, because the support act was a young fella called Terence Trent D'Arby, and he blew the roof off the place. He was phenomenal. So that was one of those nights that nothing Simply Red could have done could have touched what Terence Trent D'Arby did. So I was really glad I went along to that one.
A great gig you had a ticket to but missed?
I was supposed to, with my first wife, I was supposed to take her to see Pavarotti at Hyde Park in London. And she was very heavily pregnant at the time, and it was due to rain torrentially all day. So this is like 31 years ago. And I was really looking forward to it. I really liked Pavarotti, and I liked, his style of opera. But then a couple of weeks beforehand, I got the shout to say that Celtic were coming to London on the same night. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? So my friends were telling me, you've got to get at this Pavarotti gig. So the rain helped me. The rain came and saved me. So I spoke to my wife, said, look, I don't think it's safe for us to go and stand in a muddy field for 3 hours and during the torrential rain. And I talked her out of it and said, look, when he comes back, we'll go and see him. And we never did. But a night at home, staying warm, staying dry. She went, yeah, that's a good idea. Then I went, well, I'm off to watch the Celtic. So that went down like a lead balloon. So that's probably one that I should have went to, but didn't.
Furthest you travelled for a gig?
That would have to be Johannesburg for Rodriguez, the Sugar Man Rodriguez. Went 2013 with my present wife. We saw him playing in Johannesburg, and that was sublime. Because of, if you've seen the movie Searching for Sugar Man, it shows you his relationship with South African audiences. He's like Bob Dylan over there, and it was the first time he was back in a number of years, and to see him playing these songs was just phenomenal.
Gig that most surprised you, good or bad?
Frankie Goes to Hollywood at the Apollo. I took my wee cousin to see Frank, and I liked Frankie. I liked their singles and stuff. I wasn't expecting them to be. I wasn't expecting them to be as good as they were live. The live experience was mind blowing. It was one of the best gigs I've ever seen. Outstanding performance. I'd go and see them again in a heartbeat. And that was 37 years ago, whatever it was. Outstanding.
A great gig that made you miss the last bus or train home?
I went to see Issac Hayes at the Town and Country Club, the old Town and Country Club in London. And he just refused the curfew. He was like, I'll just keep playing. And they put the lights up. They put lights up and they turned the power off. And he still kept playing. And people were like, well, we're not leaving. If he's not leaving, we're not leaving. So the person I was with that night, well, like, should we just stay? Yeah, why not? Let's stay until. And he must have done it he must have played to about midnight or so. And at that time, there was the last tube had gone, so we had to wait for a night bus to get back home. But it was worth it. It was definitely worth hanging on for the extra hour and a half or whatever it was.
Bucket gig in the past you would love to have been at?
Uh, I remember listening to Radio Clyde back in it was 1982, I think, when the Stones came over and they announced it on the morning. Said tickets are going to be on sale this afternoon for 2 or 3 shows they're doing at the Apollo. Get down to the Apollo now. I think the tickets were like $3.50 or a fiver or something like that. And at the time I was like 15, 16. I just didn't have it. I was like, shit, I need to get the money for somewhere to get the Stones ticket. And they sold out in minutes. You know, nobody called. You had to go in queue and buy them. So by the time, you know, I got the money, they were all gone. So I would love to have seen the Stones back early 80s, not in a stadium, but in one of the great venues in the world.
Bucket gig you're still waiting to go to?
I would like to see Springsteen at somewhere like the Hydro. I'd like to see Springsteen indoors. I'd like to see the Stones indoors as well. Either one of those two, an indoor venue. The smaller the better. I'd be up for.
Perfect. Right, band or artist you have saw the most times?
That's probably Hipsway, actually. Strangely enough, Hipsway or then Jericho, maybe, because for Hipsway it was a girl I was seeing. Her sister was going out with one of the guys in the band, so I got to see them a lot. I was put on the guest list for a lot of their shows just as they were making it. So every time they played Glasgow or the surrounding areas, I was there as they were going through their rise to fame. And then Jericho, because 2 guys in my band were they were the guitarist and drummer for the Jericho, so I saw them a few times as well. So it's probably one of those two. And the Bluebells probably now, because I've seen them tons of times in the last couple of years, but they're moving up the charts. It'll probably eventually be the Bluebells, but at the moment it's probably still Hipsway.
Best live venue?
That's a tricky one. The Barrowland's very special because if you're from Glasgow, it's the place, if you're a musician, you want to play. And fortunately, I was able to play it in 85. We played the Barrowland, my band, White. So the Barrowland is just a phenomenal place. But there's 2 other places that I really love, and it's one's Kelvin Grove Bandstand. It's just, there's something magical about the place. And every gig I've seen there has been just what a transcendent experience, especially Burt Bacharach and, you know, Chic. When I saw them, it was just phenomenal. Words can't describe how those gigs felt. But the one I've probably, the venue I've been to most is the Royal Albert Hall in London. My old work used to own 7, well, still does own 7 seats in the Albert Halls. So they had 7 seats for every performance. So I used to go, I've seen, you name it, I've seen them there at the Albert Halls in the same 7 seats. So I've got a big, big soft spot for the Royal Albert Hall.
Best ever gig?
That's who's your favourite child? You know, it's one of those ones. Best ever gig would have to be, could be Frank Sinatra at the Royal Albert Hall. That was sensational. Tony Bennett at the same venue. Blue Nile at the Royal Albert Hall as well. Chic in Kelvin Grove with Earth, Wind and Fire. That was just mind blowing. McCartney at the Hydro a couple of years ago. Rodriguez in Johannesburg. I refuse to answer that question. It's too difficult. It's above my pay grade.
And one live album we should all own.
It's between two, Stop Making Sense and the band The Last Waltz. One of those two. Either of those two is perfect.
Perfect, brilliant. That's great. Thanks very
Okay.
much, George.